What's up, Vintage Nation? Welcome back to Bench Racing. On this week's show, we're going to bring you highlights from last year's Johnsonville Hayseed National 125 Sportsman Expert Class Moto 1 and Moto 2. In between that action, we have off-road director of ARMA, Albert Newman, coming on to give us a Freestone preview. Should be a great show. We want to thank everybody for tuning in to the episode 1. We reached over 100,000 views on all the platforms. We thank you for the support. Enjoy the show. We'll see you right after Moto 1.
All right, everybody, welcome to the American Racing Historic Motorcycle Association's Hayseed National here at Johnsonville MX, just outside beautiful downtown Eontis, Texas. This is race number 6, our 125 Sportsman Expert and Intermediate class. Down that front straightaway they go on the south side of the track. Here we go through that third corner. Let's see who is in the lead as they come through this section of the track. Outside looks like Ryder Maddox there on the 201. Here we go. Jamie Adams went the lead, followed by Taylor Blackwood. Down the straightaway we go. Ryder Maddox in third now. Jerry Maddox slips to fourth. Here we come through this section of the track. Jamie Adams on the 34 still in the lead. Taylor Blackwood in second. Ryder Maddox in third. Now Jerry Maddox slips to fourth as they head to the back section of the track on this little Sportsman 125 Expert class here at the Hayseed National. Jamie Adams still in the lead now, closely followed by the 201 of Ryder Maddox on the outside. Jamie Maddox over the start to decline and takes the green flag for lap number 1 in the book. This race number 6. Inside for Jamie Adams, outside for Ryder Maddox. Through the second corner we go. All on these little CR 125 Hondas from yesteryear through the roller section on the south side of the track. Ryder Maddox on the outside, Jamie Adams on the inside. Jamie Adams closes the door. Here we go through this jump section. Ryder Maddox trying to get a run. Ryder Maddox on the inside. He now takes the lead from Jamie Adams on the 34. Jerry Maddox now a distant fourth. National champ. Taylor Blackwood on the 223 in third. Here we go. There's your leader. Ryder Maddox on the 201, followed by the 34 of Jamie Adams. Taylor Blackwood on the 223. Jerry Maddox a distant fourth on the 1. Over gravity cavity we go. Ryder Maddox starting to pull away from Jamie Adams and the 223 of Taylor Blackwood on their NorCal vintage bike. Down to that sweeping corner down there on the right. Coming out from the bottom section, Ryder Maddox on the 201 in the lead. He's on his little 74 CR125 Honda. Here's Jamie Adams on the NorCal. He's on the 34 in second. He'll be followed by the 223. Oh, the Jerry Maddox on the 1 now moves into third. It looks like Taylor Blackwood is falling in the back as they head down that section down in the straightaway on the south side of the track. Ryder Maddox now with a commanding lead, followed by the number 34 of Jerry Maddox in third. Jamie Adams in second. Here comes Ryder Maddox. Here comes Ryder Maddox, now closely followed by Jamie Adams on the 34 down the NorCal Vintage straightaway. Wade Woodall now moves into third. Jerry Maddox drops to fourth. White flag lap this time around. Here comes Ryder Maddox in into this left-hand sweeping corner. Inside to cut the time down. Jamie Adams right behind on the 34. A distant third. Wade Woodall on the CZ, followed by Jerry Maddox on the 1. There's your winner, Ryder Maddox on the 201. Jamie Adams on the 34 broke down in the back section of the track. Let's see who comes across the finish line in second. Jerry Maddox finishes second, followed by Wayne Woodall.
In episode 2 of Bench Racing, we got our friend off-road director Albert Newman joining us again. We can't wait for tonight's episode. We got some good info for you for Freestone, a Farm 14 update, and a lot more. Albert, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. It's good to see you. What's the weather like there in St. Louis tonight?
We got a nice clear night. It's not bad. It's a little on the cold side. We get a little warm weather, and then it seems like it goes right back down. But it's not bad in the city. A little bit of wind, but we'll take it. It's a clear night.
Yeah, it's a little crisp here in Dallas, Texas this evening as well. So, but a nice night out. So, but yeah, man, thanks for having me back on. I been watching the show and all the features you had. I really loved the Trampus Parker interview that you had. So that was just wonderful. I could listen to Trampus talk all the time though. So, but anyway, good interview. And Trampus, I think I popped off and told somebody that Trampus needs to write a book someday. The more I got to thinking about that, Trampus really should write a book someday, because there are stories he's told me, just him growing up. We grew up, he grew up in Southeast Texas, Southwest Louisiana. So, I'm a little bit older than him, not much, but legendary dude down there. But he's got family stories that are just awesome to hear about. Not everything's about motorcycle racing whenever Trampus gets to telling stories. So hopefully you'll get some more time with him on that. But hey, so I wanted to just kind of kick it off tonight. In a couple of weeks, we have, I think it's like April 12th, 13th, we're going into Freestone County Raceway, which is in Wortham, Texas. It's about an hour south of Dallas, between Dallas and Houston. And Freestone County Raceway it's a pro track that they have out there. They also have a night supercross style track. They run, big cross country races out there. They've built a golf driving range for fun, and they're doing some competitive shooting out there as well. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on out there, and it's a little bit in the country for Texas, but it's only 15 minutes off the freeway, so it's not hard to find. And so there's lots of good places to stay. There's some good restaurants, near to the track and all that. So it'll be a great time. But anyway, Clayton Miller is the guy that runs the operation now with his wife Courtney and his mom Karen. They kind of run the operations, and it's a full-blown operation going out there. It's a big family farm. It's cattle. It's mainly oil wells out there now. But back in, I'd say around 2009, 2010, they got some outdoor pro nationals there. And we were excited in Texas to have that going again, because we hadn't had pro nationals since the Lake Whitney days, the Rio Bravo, and some of those famous tracks that we have in Texas. And so they brought outdoor pro racing back to Texas. The Miller family did, and they've got a real storied history. I hate to call it a past, but they have a real storied history with road racing, motorcycles, and some dirt track stuff. And they've sponsored some champions in those arenas as well. But Clayton Miller, who runs the operation now, he was a pro racer, and he got out there and he got to compete against the likes of the Dungies and the Villapotos of the world and all that. So I think he even got to race against K-Dub a few times. But anyway, so Clayton runs a machine shop around the Houston area, north of Houston, and he runs the facility out there as well. But so one of the more, I'd hate to say infamous things that the Freestone track is known for in 2011, and you might remember this. Ryan Dungey is leading the race, and he was on Suzuki at the time, and he was about to win, and he had a 26-second lead. And on the very last lap, he runs out of gas. Now, there was a multitude of excuses as to what really happened, but from what I've heard, he just plain ran out of gas. And it was a hot day in Texas, and they're running race fuel, and it just burned through it that day. And Chad Reed went on to win that race that day. And I think Chad Reed was actually having a good little run outdoor. And, he was mainly a supercross rider, not a outdoor pro rider, it seemed like. But Chad won a few outdoor nationals. And he won that day, but that was the Ryan Dungey running out of gas story that happened. And anyway, we were there to see it, and we couldn't believe it happened. But so that's a little bit of I guess some history there about Freestone and one of the funny things that happened out there as well. I'm sure Roger DeCoster's not proud of that moment. But for the program that weekend, we will be running regional cross country. And so it'll be a South Central regional cross country, and it'll be an hour-long race. We run vintage and post-vintage, next gen, and we usually have a few modern two-strokes that will get out there and ride with us as well. So we basically have about a 30-second gap start. It'll be about a 3.5-mile course through the woods. I don't want to call it difficult, but I don't want to call it easy at the same time. I've been out there. So it's a really good woods track. So if you're into cross country, especially all you XTR 200 guys, I would highly suggest come out there and run cross country in the morning. And, we'll have a long enough break before we get into the motocross program. But so we'll run cross country both Saturday and Sunday morning, regional format. Of course, Saturday will be the vintage motocross program, and Sunday we'll do the post vintage and next gen. And we will have one modern support gate for two strokes. In addition to that, there's going to be a race, and we call it the Race for the Cup. Bobby Hedge has provided some of the trophies, really cool trophies for it. I think there's some money in for this as well. So I think the top three get a payout, but we'll be running an intermission race. So if you've got an XR200 or a YZ100 and you want to get into an intermission race on Saturday and Sunday, we'll do that, and they'll award the awards and pass out a little bit of cash on Sunday once that's done. So I know Kenny Vaughn will have some of his really highly tuned XR200s out there, so that'll be a pleasure to see that. So that'll be what's going on from the racing perspective. I believe there is a Supercross race during the day in Philadelphia. So we won't have Supercross in the evening like we had planned on last year. But if there's a replay and someone's got Peacock or something out there and they've got a big screen, I'm sure there'll be some people watching the replay of the race later on that night. In addition to this, I'd kind of mentioned that earlier to you that there's a gun range out there. There's a little driving range. There is going to be Saturday night after the races and after awards, we're going to do a $200 long drive contest on Saturday night. You don't have to pay anything to enter. We'll just see who on the vintage motocross scene can drive a ball the farthest. And I don't play golf, but I do like to go to the driving range. So I might even borrow someone's driver and see if I can hit one that night. So anyway, hey, Andrew, do you play golf or anything?
So we used to go out and play. I honestly, I'd like to pick it back up. But I just don't have time right now. With me being in the city and my family, they're about an hour from here. I work up here, I sell power sports during the week, and we just stay busy, man. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm doing this. So honestly for us, the my hobby is getting to get out to these tracks, see everybody. That's kind of our downtime. It sounds kind of weird, but because we're always busy there too. But that's my enjoyment right now is just the races. But yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely want to get back into it here
yeah.
sometime. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've got a brother-in-law that did the pro-am and all that, and he's always bugging me to go out and go to the golf course with him. But golf is a commitment, and yeah, I'm kind of like you. My free time, it's spent working on motorcycles or something motorcycle related, or trying to catch up with friends and hang out. So. I used to play a lot of adult league softball. That was a big thing I did way back when. But yeah. So, but I don't know. I like doing the. I like going to. We've got one of the top golfs near the house, and that's a lot of fun to go out there and hit balls. And actually, skeet shooting is a lot of fun too. So I'm kind of curious.
So
Yeah.
so speaking of working on your bikes, I hear you're getting some bikes together. You got any good stories? Anything cool we're gonna see? What all you wrenching on?
I'm bringing my little Elsinore 125 back to race this year. I've got a 74, 75 model. It's a hodgepodge of stuff. But I rebuilt this thing from the ground up. A friend of mine, Troy Anderson, helped me build a couple motors a winter back. And yeah, so I've got a motor on the bench ready to go. I've got board cylinders. So I'm committing back to the Sportsman 125 class. So it's a cool little bike, you know me, you kind of know my family, and of course it's got a DG arm. I've got DG head. It's a trick little bike, So
It's awesome.
anyway, I got fresh tires on it, which is an oddity for me. I don't even think about new tires. I just run them. And the guy that helped me replace them the other day, he made fun of me because the front tire head was a old Kenda Millville, and he goes, "Man, I hadn't seen one of these damn things in 10 years." So that front tire really needed to be replaced. It was missing a lot of the knobs and stuff. But man, I tell you what, I am going to unleash before the end of the year, and I'm gonna share a picture with you over the upcoming weeks. I've got a 1977 RM125, and I've got a Moto X Fox air-cooled head for it. I've got a Moto X Fox exhaust pipe for it, which is unobtainable. And I've lucked into finding a couple of those in my lifetime. And actually, the first one I have, I gave to my brother, and it's on the Fox bike in the Fox, the little Pat Richter RM125 out in California. It was NOS, dude. I couldn't put that on a race bike, So, but anyway, yeah, my brother got that pipe on that bike. But Thor swing arm, I had Canon suspension out of Oklahoma City work on the forks for me a little bit to give them a better ride. You can't get much more travel out of 9 inches on those bikes, but it's a much better ride. And a little bit of port work. Suzuki's were notorious for having mismatched ports. So if anyone races a Suzuki, especially a 125, man, pull that cylinder off and look at that transfer from the cases up into the cylinder. They never align. And you don't need a fancy guy to do any port working for that. If you got a Dremel and a steady hand, you can get in there and mark it up and get it set just right and clean up those ports yourself a little bit. But yeah, probably in the second half of the season, I'm going to put that RM125 on the track. But other than that, I've got my 77 YZ125, which I've been racing forever, and it's a pretty trick little bike. And I've got an 80 model YZ125 that I'll be racing as well. And but yeah, I'm looking forward to the RM125 to be back out there. And at some point this year, I'll have my XR200 ready to go. So maybe I can talk Kenny Vaughn into tricking that thing out for me as well. But I'm not going to spend $20,000 on it. So,
I was gonna
but
say he's got some really nice bikes, but they look,
oh,
man, they
man,
look expensive.
the guy he's a fabricating genius, and just
Mhm.
what I mean, it's a marvel to see what a lot of these guys do with these bikes and all that. But I just remember being at a race a few years ago. I don't know, it might have been a local race, a Texas Vintage Racing Club race, but I showed up and Kenny's got in back of this truck, the first tricked out XR 200 ever seen like this. And he had a modern frame, modern swing arm, modern suspension on it. And, shoved the XR 200 motor in it. And then, the class started catching on and we started doing those intermission races like at Diamond Dawns and all that. And we were trying to put some specs around what you could and couldn't do. So it's got to be an XR 200 motor to start with, or an ATC 200 motor. And it's got to be an XR 200 frame. But the sky was kind of the limit at Diamond Dawns with this. And Kenny just built some great stuff. I think Bubba Dennis helped him do some of the early motor work. But man, there are so many geeks in this world. I think Kevin Cleveland's another guy, Louisiana guy that really knows how to get those motors running right. There's a ton of guys out there that build these bikes nice now, but Kenny by far has just been the leader of building tricked out XR 200. So anyway, I expect to see some of his bikes at some of the races upcoming this year. And you know, I get bugged a lot. Are you going to run, one of the 200 classes, intermission race or something like that? And what I think a lot of guys don't understand is, we have a fixed amount of time during the day. And if we're running a cross country program in the morning and the full, post vintage or vintage motocross program during the day, depending on what time of the year it is, you don't have a lot of daylight and, an ambulance is charged by the hour now. So, if we do one of these races, it just happened to work out that we could squeeze it in for that weekend. And if we do have one, I highly suggest people to watch the racing because I've seen some spectacular racing from local guys and pro guys doing this stuff. So anyway, man, I gave Kenny Bond a big plug today, I think. So
Yeah, I was gonna say,
maybe
I
he will
think
do
we
some free
usually
work for me. Yeah.
we
Um,
usually well, I'm sure Bobby Hedge will have, BH25. He's one of the sponsors of the show. I'm sure if he's at that race, he'll get us some video footage. We'll have some cool stuff for the next week's segment, to be able to show people. Not next week, I apologize, after Freestone, to
yeah.
show some of that footage. And, like you were saying earlier, if you're looking for people to really, if you don't have somebody to work on your stuff and you're looking for somebody to do that machine work, that custom work, I was looking at the shirt you're wearing, NorCal Vintage.
Yeah.
They're another one
Yeah.
of our sponsors, man. They
Yeah.
can do it all start to finish. Get a hold of Eric, Brad. Those guys are great. You'll see them at the ARMA races. And then as well, today I got a call from Dan Gray with remx.com.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good
Remx.
company. Yeah.
Yeah, he does all of our stuff on our race bikes. He's a big contributor, and we look forward to giving him a lot of plugs this year and showing his product. And we're excited to get out on the track and see how it performs. We've tested, but
Yeah.
everything's
I,
heating up, buddy. We're ready to go. We're just we're waiting.
yeah. And I tell you, it's nice to have a company like REMX out there, especially being an Elsinore, a nut like me. You depend on these guys to get these parts, and uh, every one of us has lost a Kickstarter on the track at some point, or a number plate falling off and getting crushed, or something. So, companies like REMX and like AMS, there's a lot of these companies that provide some of these parts. But REMX, if you're an Elsinore guy, that's one-stop shopping right there. But speaking of NorCal, I had a conversation. I've never talked to Eric Harvey, but I
Mhm.
had a conversation with him this week. We're working on something together, and we'll see if the fruits of that labor comes to fruition somewhere here in the near future, and hopefully the ARMA members will benefit from that. But he walked me back through his pro career. Um, uh, he raced a 77 YZ 125, and I've got one of these things, and I told him, I said, when I got into this, I had a YZ 100 growing up, and I always wanted to have the 125, and I wanted to trick it out, but Me and my brother growing up, we had to cut lawns and spread dirt and do yard work for people. That's how we bought our bikes. We had to work for that with those things. And
Yeah.
but later on in life, I had a little bit more money, thankfully, and maybe it was my wife. She probably actually paid for it, but man, when I got this YZ125, the 77 model, I got it from Scott Davis out of California way back when. It was a super low hour bike. I bought the bike, and I mean it was ready to go, but it was all stock. And people always talked about, those early monoshock YZs with the steel swing arms, how they flexed a little bit, or you'd get the Yamaha. And it's true. And I'm not a great rider or anything, but you can feel that swing arm flexing a little bit. And you know what the Yamaha is once you've experienced that. So I found an old Al Baker modified shock, and I had it reworked by a guy in Colorado, Steve Sage Suspensions. And my brother had found a DG Gold Head and gave that to me for Christmas early on. Jimco was in business in Houston at the time, and I took the bike to them, and they custom made an exhaust pipe for me. I found an Al Baker fork kit for an IT 175, and that corrected the front forks. And no more really extra suspension, but just better suspension is what I was trying to get out of the bike. But man, I see why aftermarket companies were so popular back in the mid 70s now, through the early 80s. And your dad, he had a lot of experience finding some cool old parts from DG and FMF and Thor and R&D Racing. Just there were so many back in the day, but every one of those parts made a difference on those bikes. Now people always debate whether the aluminum head does or doesn't, and it probably really doesn't. It might keep the bike cooler, but I don't know. But the swing arms, the aluminum swing arms, were difference makers. Someone like an Al Baker that knew suspension really well, if they got a hold of your suspension, or White Brothers, it did make a difference. And Eric talked about that, and Eric personally knows Steve Simon. Man, that's a guy we should get on one of these bench racing shows one day, is Eric Harvey. And I think that would just be an excellent show there. But anyway, yeah, NorCal, they're working on some of Jamie Adams' bikes, and they're helping him with his little Hondas, so they don't, they're a Yamaha sort of affiliated group, but they'll do anything. And they know a lot about suspensions, and whatever you want done for your suspension, they can make it happen. If you need your tubes re-chromed or nitride or whatever it is, anodized, they can set you up for it. So yeah, another good company. And and maybe through some of these episodes we'll find more people that can do some of these things for bikes to keep them on the track, because that is one of the hardest things about the vintage bikes, especially the pre-74 bikes, is you got to have extra parts sitting in the garage ready to go, all the time, because something's always breaking on those bikes, it seems like. So you need to have an inventory of parts, and you need to have good resources to reach out to keep the bike on the track. But anyway, your dad will be on the show one day. Maybe he'll talk about that as well.
Actually, I just talked to him. Was it this morning? We were talking, and he wants to come on, and
Yeah.
we're gonna do a first turn podcast episode with him as well. And he's just gonna kind of go through a brief, like in the beginning, where, when, what he did, the businesses. There's a lot of businesses out there now that were started by him, that he sold. I get just Red Racer, FastGuyStuff.com, all that stuff. Was created out of the Vintage Factory, family. So he's just got a lot of cool stories. He got to work with Marty. He went out for a couple of days, hung out with Marty at his school. And then, just the stories, worked at Cobra, and just the list goes on. But we're definitely going to bring him on. I'm gearing him up. I'm trying to get his setup ready, so he's ready to go. But we're excited. Like I said, I'm going to try to get him to Gateway MX. That's the one after Freestone.
Yeah, that's
kind of our backyard. Yeah, kind of our backyard race, and there's a lot of guys in the industry that have gotten, a little bit older bikes that want to race. They're all going to be there from the shop. So it's going to be kind of like a home field deal. We're excited that it should be good. We got all our riders. We're helping out, obviously Logan Bryan, Cody Lorenz is kind of my guy we're using, and Clayton Clevenger. He runs a little
Yeah, yeah,
MOVMX and different stuff, but he's committed. He's going to be running 4 or 5. He's running for a championship with Arma, so that's cool. He's getting
yeah.
in. And yeah, man, we just, like I said, we look forward. I'm stocked up with merch, goodies, stickers. I've been kind of slow on the go with some of that stuff. I've been so busy, but Gateway MX, come see me. I will have everything. So
Yeah,
we're set up.
yeah, so it's April 26th, 27th, and I'm gonna be there at that race. I'll be up there
Awesome.
um doing something. But Chris Todd's the regional coordinator for up there, so hopefully Chris will be in there, and Logan will be there. We'll have a bunch of regional coordinators there. I think our South Central guy will be there as well. So I think you'll have a lot of good higher level armor representation there. But I do have a question. So Gateway MX, have you been out there before? Like what's
I
the
have.
track like?
So it's
Yeah.
in Lebanon, Missouri.
Uh-huh.
It's got a big open, wide open start, grass, takes you down into a first turn, sweeps you back around to some not real aggressive jumps, kind of some tables. And then it has a back section you go off in with some turns, more jumps. It's got a bottom section that has kind of a laid back whoop pattern for a little bit. But as far as spectators, being it's perfect. They have plenty of room for campers, RVs. I mean, they have football fields of space. It should be a great setup. I hope to find out soon if they've done anything with the track. Maybe we can bring somebody on or you can find out. But I think it'll be a good one. Like I said,
Yeah.
we're full bore for Gateway. So if there's something, I think when everybody gets there, like you said, there's enough higher up Arma people there that if something needs to change or something in the track, from what I hear, these guys are ready to go for whatever you need. So should be a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, I was told that they're real easy to work with. And that's one of the things when I walk into these tracks, it sounds very cliched, but we've got 70-year-old guys riding 70-year-old motorcycles. And a lot of the tracks that we walk into aren't super exposed to the whole full vintage scene, and maybe haven't seen it full bore like an ARMA show is. I mean, like you get the whole thing, and you really get to see the senior level riders that participate with this. So you might not see at the local MOVMX or the TVRC race or something like that, like we have down here. Actually, we have a good representation of our senior riders in TVRC. But it'll be cool, and I'm looking forward to working with them. Hey, I want to circle back. So at Freestone, and this is really similar to what we were going to do at Farm 14, and Kevin had built us at Farm 14 a vintage specific track to run the Saturday program on. And on Sunday, we were going to go onto the regular MX track that we, have been running on the last 2 years. And Kevin tames it down, fills in some of the gaps and things like that. So Clayton Miller with Freestone, he has built us a vintage specific track. I am I am so lucky that I am working with promoters now that have this level of commitment. Because trust me, it takes money to build these tracks, and I don't know if they're going to make a ton of money off of doing something like this, but they're going to provide a really good experience for us. And so Clayton has built us a vintage track, and it's going to have a nice starting gate. And where the first turn is going to be, we call it a Talladega turn. We kind of shoot uphill, and it's a big, wide, hill that we have to turn, and we come back down. And there'll be some ski jumps and a couple berms, and he's got some tabletops, nothing crazy. But there's this it's a area behind the pro track that he's just had this idea for several years, and it's really trying to pay homage to his father, in building this to celebrate, these old motorcycles. So it's going to be a really cool vintage specific track on Saturday, and then on Sunday we get to go to the Pro National track. And Clayton is really going the extra mile, because last year we were just going to avoid some of the sections, like they have a big wall jump there. Well, Clayton's just going to knock the wall jump down and leave like a little hump in there. They have what they call the Texas 12 pack, which are these crazy, 2, 3 foot, sand whoop sections. And they're brutal, and it changes throughout the course of the day. He's just
Okay.
basically going to that down. But I guarantee you one thing, in that sand, you will develop some natural whoops as the day goes on. But he's gonna he'll tame down the jumps. He'll fill in, some of the gaps. But he's gonna tone the track down. But we're gonna run most of the pro track, and it's gonna be really cool because I mean it's like when you're watching a pro race outdoors, you see the big backdrop behind the starting gate and a 40-man gate. We're using it, and it's going to be
That's
a great
awesome.
yeah. We've never, I don't know that we've ever been able to put on a race on the pro track before. And if we did, it must have been a long time ago. But this is going to be modified for ARMA specs, and it'll be for our post vintage and next gen. And we'll have a modern support gate out there as well. But I'm really stoked to have this thing happening in my backyard. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, kudos to some of these guys with these bigger name tracks that are, not having a great payday, probably with an ARMA race like this when they could be running some big, Loretta qualifier or whatever, but they're opening up their tracks to us and modifying them for us and allowing us to come in. And the tracks, it's got full bore, it's got showers and everything. So the weather should be nice if people want to camp out. It should lend itself to camping out. There's a few hookups there, but for the most part, there's not a lot of big rig hookups. They do have, I know you can get water if you've got a big rig there, so they can supply you with water. But there's a pro shop, there'll be rule announcers, there's stands. It's just, it's one of the top tracks in Texas or in the South actually. So I'm really looking forward to being able to walk in there, and I hope we have a good turnout for it as well. One thing I do know is I love talking about the Sportsman 125 expert class.
It's going to be stacked.
Dude, this should be epic. Jamie Adams, defending champion, is going to be there. We'll have Ryder and Jerry Maddox going to be there. I spoke to Jerry earlier. Taylor Blackwood, who also, he's a big NorCal guy, is going to be there. And Taylor's a really good rider. A guy that I've seen grow leaps and bounds in the last 4 or 5 years that he's been running with us. There's another guy from Texas who rides what we call a Pink Dayglow CZ 125. His name's Wade Woodall. I'm hoping he shows up. Jerry walked into Texas one year at a race down in Doney, Texas, the Texas Vintage GP. And he didn't know who any of these guys from Texas were that showed up. They don't race the circuit really. And Jerry walked away from Texas with his tail between his legs that weekend. But Jerry loves coming down to Texas, and he knows it's going to be a show. And if Wade Woodall shows up, look for the Dayglow Pink CZ out there. And there's one more guy that's getting into the scene, and I'm a little shocked by this because I didn't think it was a small bore rider, but we got a guy, Craig Jackson, out of Texas, and he's a 250 rider. He hangs with Bob Bean, Jamie Adams, Kyle Kaiser, some of the fast guys, and he has built a super trick, Chris sounding Yamaha 125 MX. I don't know who did the motor work for him and everything else, but I had spies out in the field this weekend that saw him out jetting it, and they said the bike is just super fast. So, and Craig Jackson's a really good rider. So that may be the surprise racer of the weekend overall, because none of these other 125 guys have had to race Craig before. So I think they might be in for a surprise. So I'm hoping the bike holds up. Um, so I'm looking forward to that. Um, Another thing, and I was supposed to do this at Farm 14. I have some ARMA perpetual trophies. We have the Brad Lackey Trophy, we've got the Jim Pomeroy Trophy, and we have the Irene Smith Trophy. And our winners, I was going to present it at Kevin's place, but since the rain out, we weren't able to do it. I'm going to drag those trophies with me down to Freestone, and I'm going to give those out. And I also have it's a regional trophy for the South Central, and it's in memory of Bill Casson, who owned Casson Yamaha out of Austin, Texas. And they sponsored Steve Stackable back in the day, and just a really big supporter of the Texas motocross scene in the late 60s, early 70s, which most people didn't even know existed. But Bill did that and put people on bikes. And when he passed away, his wife reached out to me and gave us some money to do an annual trophy. So I've got a really nice trophy that we give out to someone who has made outstanding contributions to the vintage racing program in the South Central region. And some of the previous winners was Mike Harlan out of Texas. Tom Shackelford won it, and we'll find out who wins it this year. But these are people that have made a mark, and it's not just about what they've done racing, what they've done to bring people into the vintage racing. And these are guys that prepare bikes and put people on them, particularly youngsters and stuff. So it's a really cool trophy, and it's got a nice $500 check that comes with it. So that'll be going on this weekend as well. And I'm just looking forward to it. Well, it's next weekend, the 12th, 13th.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that, and it should be a nice time. Praying that the weather's good. It won't be too hot, and the dirt. If anyone wants to know what it's like, it's sort of this Texas loamy sand type dirt. The Pro Track has a little bit more clay base built into it, but it's not like your typical North Texas type dirt. It's very loamy sand and very forgiving. So it'll be fun.
So that sounds like I tell you, I'm a little discouraged. I wish we were coming to Texas. For some reason, last minute, I can hop on a plane and pull it off with my schedule. I will, but it's not looking
Yeah,
good. I really want to be
yeah,
down there. I'm like a kid and looking out the window. Everybody's going, and I'm like, I can't go play. Like it just kills me. So
yeah.
I really wish I could go, but like I said, let me ask you this, just to change pace before we depart here today. Is there any updates on Farm 14? Will we see a reschedule maybe? Anything?
Yeah, historically, and I've said this on one of the Facebook pages, ARMA, when we cancel a race, we just typically don't reschedule them. They're just canceled. Um, we have a full dance card basically for the entire year, and it's hard to try to get somebody back in, to where it's not stepping on someone else's race or anything like that. But this year there was less racing in the schedule. And by the benefit of it being so early in the year, I'm going to make a pitch, and I need to talk to a couple promoters and, of course, the rest of the ARMA folks. But I'm going to make a pitch for a fall date for us to get back in there. One of the things that has got me a little bothered, and I think maybe some of the racers as well, is it was a double header cross country race weekend, and this just pulled two races out of the South, and it's going to make it very difficult from anyone along the Gulf Coast to compete for a national championship. And I know rain and all that stuff is part of the game, but We just didn't have a overabundance of races this year to begin with, and we were really short of cross country racing down in the South this year. So I'm going to make a pitch for it. I feel pretty good about it. This is not the norm, and I hope people don't think, oh, hey, any race that cancels, we can reschedule. That's not the case. It'll if we ever do anything like this in the future, it's a case by case basis. But I'm shooting for a fall date, and yeah, we're going to try to get it back in. Kevin was he was real disappointed. He was down on himself about the weather, and like we don't have control over it. And everybody was watching it, and we thought it was going to hit Friday evening or Saturday morning. And yeah, he kept calling me Saturday. He's like, "It still hadn't rained. I feel like a dummy, for this." Well, the rain hit about three in the afternoon on Saturday, so we could have got a little bit of racing in, but it wouldn't have been quality racing. And if anyone, like most people, were watching the weather, he just happened to dodge it because it was all around him, and it was some severe flash flooding going on as well. And anyway, it was a bummer. T-shirts had been bought, trophies had been made. So there's financial impact whenever something like this happens, and that's every promoter goes through this. That's the life of a motocross promoter right there. So, but yeah, man, I'm gonna make a case and try to get it back in. I've had a lot of text messages and PMs, DMs to try to get it back into the schedule. Like I told Kevin, the first 2 years we had a really good turnout, but going into this year, we had a great number of pre-entries, and even for cross country guys just don't pre-enter. They were pre-entering for this race, so it was a good turnout. And I think we were probably going to hit somewhere between 350 to 400 entries. And from an ARMA perspective, that's a really great day, and that's a great event for our members. And so I think it's worthwhile to try to make that event happen. So I'm gonna plead for it, and I think a lot of members have been trying to make a push to see that it happens as well. But yeah, I think this was going to be our breakout year.
All right, folks, here we go. Moto number 2, race number 6. Jamie Adams in the lead in this Sportsman Expert 125 class. Ryder Maddox in third. Wayne Woodall in fourth. Jerry Maddox in fourth. Here we go down the back straightaway. Jamie Adams in the lead. Ryder Maddox in second. I think Jamie Adams' issue with the bike in the first moto was the chain came off. I think we have everything sorted out on that bike now. Here we go down that back straightaway. All right, here we go from the back section of the track. Let's see who's in the lead in this race. Jamie Adams in the lead, followed by Ryder Maddox on the 201. Here comes Jamie Adams on the 34. He's going to start across the start-finish line to take the green flag. Lap number 1 in the book. There goes Ryder Maddox. There's Jerry Maddox in fourth. Down that south side straightaway we go. Jamie Adams on the 34 in the lead. Ryder Maddox right there on the 201, and that right-hander. Here we go down this center short chute over the jump. Jamie Adams still in the lead. Adams on the inside, Ryder Maddox on the inside. There goes Jamie in the lead, Ryder Maddox in second. Jamie starting to pull just a little bit. Jamie Adams in the lead still. Ryder Maddox starting to slip as they go over the start-finish line. you out here at the Hayseed National today. It's like 94 degrees here in the great state of Texas. Here's Jamie Adams coming down this short chute in the lead on the 34. The 201 of Ryder Maddox in second. Looks like Ryder may have had a little bit of a better section that time than Jamie. He closed the gap just a little bit. Jamie has a little bit of a better section here over the jump. Down the straightaway. Here we come from the back section of the track. Ryder Maddox now in the lead. Jamie Adams. Looks like he may have lost a silencer. Bike is extremely loud on this time around. White flag lap this time. Yep. Broken pipe or a broken silencer. Let's see if he pulls off or continues on to try and get points for this race. Maintain second position at least. Jerry Maddox moves up into third. Down the south side straightaway we go into the short chute. Ryder Maddox still in the lead, followed by Jamie Adams. Winner to the checkered flag, Ryder Maddox. He'll go 1-1 today. Here comes your second place rider. Let's see if Jamie Adams is able to maintain the position on a broken bike and a borrowed bike. Second overall in this race. And a distant third, Jerry Maddox.